Yeah, 6-3 decision on Dobbs v. Jackson. Let's welcome in our panelists for the hour. We're joined by former Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam, also with us Jessie Jane Duff and Bobby Eberle, and we only have 9 minutes left in the hour. So Donna Jackson is also with us. Great to see everyone here. All right, so I'll go with some rapid reactions if we could. Donna, I'll just start with you. Your thoughts on today's ruling?
Well, I think it's a victory for Black Americans because we know that we have been the target primarily of these abortion clinics where we make up the smallest percentage of the population, and yet 70% of abortion clinics are located in our neighborhoods. So it's a victory for us because, you know, our populations are declining because of abortion.
Jessie, your thoughts?
Oh, to reflect right off of that, I think that many of these liberals that have gone to testify in front of Congress, when you look at Janet Yellen's own testimony to Senator Tim Scott, a Black senator, that this impacts low income and Black women if they're denied the opportunity to have an abortion because it will subject them to poverty. And he was greatly insulted by that because he grew up with a strong Black mother in abject poverty. Let's look at Dr. Ben Carson, who grew up in public housing. And let's not forget Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who didn't even grow up speaking English as his first language in abject poverty. This insult of bigotry by low expectation has impacted our country in a detrimental way to young Black women and women in poverty, white women. It doesn't matter your race, that this is your only outlet. And I would just dare to say this is an opportunity for the left to stand by their principles and help women through pregnancy versus destroying their pregnancy.
And at this point, again, this final decision, very similar to that leaked draft opinion that we got at the start of May, Bobby. I don't know who was behind the leak. The court martial is still supposedly investigating it. But do you think the intent, the final version that we reached, was really the goal of the person who originally published it to all the people before SCOTUS made up their official decision?
Yeah, it's hard to say, you know, the motivations behind the leak, or maybe it was just to brace ourselves for this day, this glorious day. And my heart just goes out, one, to all the lives that will be saved from this decision and all the people who have worked for nearly 50 years. Some of them who have passed away do not get to see this day, do not get to see a day that I think Americans will look back as our version of the fight against slavery, to look back and see how could you take an innocent human life for the purposes of convenience. We're going to look back with the horror that was the practice as we look back in slavery. This is a monumental day. And as Jefferson pointed out in the Declaration of Independence, the first right he listed was the fundamental right to life. Now let the states decide it where they should. Doesn't belong in the Constitution. It is a historic day.
Yeah, interesting you put things in that perspective, because we had Plessy versus Ferguson that essentially at one time in our nation was allowing slavery, yet we had that overruled. So they didn't recognize years. Just because something came before the stare decisis, Bobby, we see now they're saying, no, this was badly formed back in 1973, and we're going to do something about it finally.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we went from 1896 to 1954 before that was overturned. This battle, 49 years, nearly 50 years of people out there saying this is not right. These children have a right to live, a fundamental right to life. It's just amazing. And again, this is following the Constitution. If you're not enumerated a power, go to the 10th Amendment. It goes back to the states. That's all that's going on. In Texas, we have a trigger bill, SB 9, that'll kick in 30 days, protecting innocent human life. Let the states battle it out. You know, those people can decide it as it should be. But this idea that it was decided and we can't ever change it, we would have had separate but equal. Let the left try and defend that.
Let's talk about the political implications of this decision. As we take a look at some of the justices who voted in favor of overturning Roe here, you see Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. These were Supreme Court justices who were nominated by Donald Trump when he was serving as president of the United States. Jessie, we heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi earlier. She says, in part, that Republicans are plotting a nationwide abortion ban. That was part of her press conference, that statement following this decision as SCOTUS released it. Your thoughts on what this means politically going forward as November becomes closer, as each day passes?
It doesn't surprise me to hear Nancy Pelosi try to spread fear, because that's all they have to try to win elections. No one is taking away abortion in this country. We are now taking it out of Roe v. Wade so that it was required by these states to offer it at the levels in which the federal law mandated. We now are giving it back to the states. And for Nancy Pelosi to run that women are being denied their rights, and for the left to even suggest you have to fly women out of state when you're not even looking at the very states that have changed this law, such as Mississippi, it's not outlawed. It's simply reducing it to 15 weeks. And for politicians to now politicize this to the level that they are, this fear-based mongering, I go back to what I was saying before. Why aren't we educating our public on how to ensure that they have financial literacy, childcare opportunities, ensuring that women do not have this as their only resort? Isn't that the better solution? Instead of trying to promote destroying life, promoting life, because the targeted communities that often are impacted are the low-income and minority communities, regardless of race. And these women end up having to suffer their entire lives knowing they don't have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And there's no 80-year-old out there that is grateful that she doesn't have grandchildren. So I am daring to say that these politicians are abusing this with a fear-based mongering that this is an end of life for all women. They don't have their choices. No, women are being empowered by this because they now have choices that may not have been presented to them before.
True.
And I would
Things
say
have
to
changed.
conservatives,
Yeah,
yes,
things
get
that,
out
yeah,
there, conservatives.
medical technology, children can survive at such a, and we know that they're alive much earlier than we knew before. Donna, your final thought.
You know, Nancy Pelosi has decided that Black people don't have value, and they never will. We deserve to live. We can contribute to this country and make it great. But she's decided that minorities are not worth saving. I think that is so wrong. And listen, I am glad to see that the 2016 election had consequences, because this is a great consequence.
And we are heading up a minute away from the end of the show. Our great thanks to our panelists here, Donna Jackson, Bobby Eberle, Jesse Jane Duff. Appreciate you joining us on this historic day indeed.